Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the brand new Even Fight event, which has a new rule set that we've never seen before. So in this event, every unit in our starting deck gets its base power increased by 14 minus its provision cost. That means low provision cost cards are much stronger than usual, opening up some very interesting options, including this absolutely busted deck. So let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Northern Realms inspired Zeal deck that should look pretty familiar because it is pretty much your standard Reaver's deck. The reason for that being, Reaver Hunters with 6 provision costs in this event will increase their base power to 10. 10 base power Reavers means that when you create a copy of a Reaver with that order ability, your second Reaver that gets spawned in will be on 9 base power, then the next one 8 base power, so on and so forth. Which means one of the things that usually makes the Reavers a little bit weak, if you could even say that, is that although they deal a ton of damage, they don't have a lot of base power themselves. Not really the case in this event, and the higher base power Reaver also means that you can create more copies of a Reaver with your initial Reaver. So that means that unlike your standard Reaver deck, one difference we have here is that we don't need to be very worried about finding other ways to reset the Reaver order ability or anything like that, because one Reaver is enough to fill an entire row. Don't even need the Reaver Scouts for that reason. We do have some purification in case something gets locked with things like the Pellar, who normally would be just a tech card, but no, in this event, he's going to have 14 base power, so I'm not even sure you could call him that. So that's a nice way to work around if your opponent tries to lock your Reaver Hunters. If your opponent tries to move your Reaver Hunters into a different row, we have a Siege Ladder, and in this case, also 14 base power, 16 points if you happen to fit him in between a couple of soldiers, so that's also not a terrible thing if you get forced into doing that. Otherwise, the way that we plan on getting our Reavers back for a later round is one of a few ways. We could either, because as we were saying, one Reaver Hunter is sufficient to fill an entire melee row full of Reaver Hunters. You might just play one in round 1, create a full row of Reaver Hunters, that's your win condition. Then in round 2 or round 3, play your other Reaver Hunter and fill an entire row, and that's your other win condition. Or you could play 2 in the same round and then rely on either Necromancy to bring one of them back from your graveyard. In this case, just make sure that you're getting the 10 power version one specifically, so you're getting the maximum value out of that Necromancy. Or, alternatively, use Princess Pavetta to bring back all of your Reaver Hunters into your deck after you use them in round 1. So that way in round 2 or round 3, you can then tutor out the 10 base power one and repeat the process. And then use things like Amphibious Assault or Oneiromancy or Royal Decree to get them lots of tutors, so you should have lots of consistency there. Speaking of consistency, because we are relying so heavily on our bronze units specifically, the newly reworked Strays of Spalla also gives us some flexibility there. We can get rid of one of our gold cards in our hand and replace it with a bronze card, namely a Reaver Hunter, and since Strays of Spalla in this event is also worth 14 points, it's still not a bad thing if you have to do this, so that should give us a lot of consistency. Have a little bit of thinning to give us even more consistency with things like the Blue Stripes Commando, which is, I believe, 13 base power in this event, and then, use some of the other one out, 26 total, not bad. And then, similarly, Dun Banner, also I believe 13 points per card. It's a little tough to get the boost on this guy because we don't have a lot of boosts in our deck, but we do have the Redanian Knight, which not only is an engine, but now is, I believe, 12 base power, which means you are immediately triggering that grace and boosting adjacent units, so this is a way to just plop this down next to a Dun Banner and summon the other one out. So that is the key combo, and then in and around that, we have a few little greedy things we can do as well. Before we start summoning in all of those Reaver Hunters, play Yennefer Illusionist first, because she will deal damage to our opponent's lowest unit based on the value of the first unit that we spawn in each turn. And those Reaver Hunters are spawning in 9, then 8, then 7, then 6 base power, which is a lot more than you're usually getting from Yennefer Illusionist. So this is probably not necessary, but when you do pull that off, that is pretty incredible. Then Igni, because we have all these Reaver Hunters who are dealing damage and more or less leveling out the power that our opponent's units have on their side of the board, should mean that at or near the end of the round, we can use Igni to remove a whole bunch of things on their side, so that can give us a lot of value too. Then, in case our opponent happens to be using Reaver Hunters of their own, we can use Olgierd Immortal, which will basically just be a wall that prevents them from dealing any more damage, because Olgierd will, at some point in time, become our highest unit, and then once the Reavers try to start damaging him, they won't be able to, because that's his thing. Then, as another finisher, we also have Triss Meteor Shower, which, because everything has such high base power in this event, is crazy valuable. Generally speaking, you're probably going to end up playing her in the range row to boost yourself, just because your Reavers are probably taking up most, if not all, of your melee row, row, but if for some reason you have an extra spot in your melee row or something went wrong with your Reavers, then you could still use her in the melee row to deal damage to your opponent. And so that's really all there is to it. It is centered almost entirely around the Reavers, and then using a few other cards to make up for potential counters to the Reavers, or a few little greedy things to just have a little more fun with it. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and they'll go first. Alright, so let's see what we have on hand here. We have one of our 2 Reaver Hunters, which is theoretically enough in and of itself to fill an entire row, so that may be sufficient. If they try to move the Reaver Hunters, we can move them back with Siege Ladder. If they try to lock, we can Purify with Pellar. So those are our 2 main ways to counter any potential counters they may have. Then Siege Support can help us give Zeal to it. It's not strictly necessary. Strange of Spalla, if we didn't have Reaver Hunters, would have been useful, but I'm not really sure we need it on this occasion. That's a little more thinning, as is that. I'd like a way to boost you, though. Otherwise, we could potentially make Siege Ladder make that happen. We'll dump Siege Support. Okay, Oneiromancy gives us a lot more flexibility. Obviously, we can get Siege Support if we want to, but we could still go with a Leader Ability Charge to give us the Zeal to avoid getting immediately locked with a Hunter as well. So, let me just double check. So I think it's going to end up being you first with Leader Ability. If it gets answered, we're obviously going to need to play our answers, or play our solutions to refix these guys. If not, we'll want to get a Dun Banner out and then put a Redanian Knight next to it to boost it up. Both because that's an engine and that's a way to get the other Dun Banner thinned out. So that's overall the plan. We do have some big finishing cards here with Igni, Triss Meteor Shower, and Yennefer Illusionist is actually an engine we'd want to play early because when combined with huge space power Reaver Hunters, she is incredibly effective, but I would like to ideally save that for round 3 if we can. They may just be focusing on a whole bunch of thinning because these thinning cards are much stronger than usual, but they've not done anything yet to suggest they're going to try to answer. I mean, they at least have not yet answered Reaver Hunter, so we'll continue with our ideal scenario plan of setting up the thinning on the Dun Banner, and maybe get the Blue Strike Commander on the other side, so we have, when we do tutor out, our Redanian Knights, and then we'll get boosted on either side. Because that's what I expected. That's what I expected to see. That's why we have Siege Ladder. It's a little unfortunate, because we can only move one of these guys. But I think we will still go this route here. So let's do this. We will move you over, and then do this. Which means we do have 2 Reaver Hunters that are still working here, but obviously that will slow us down, because these guys aren't really contributing much anymore. But we were prepared for that possibility. Oh, I didn't even realize we had 2 Pellars. That's probably overkill. They're going to pass, and pass early at that, because I think they realize that, I think they were relying almost entirely on Nilfgaard to shut down the Reaver Hunters. So, and if that is their only answer to the Reaver Hunters, and that is a good sign for us in the future, we would still like to, I think, get this thinning on the Dun Banner. So let's do this. We'll use our Oneiromancy, and with it, we'll get out Redanian Knight, put it next to the Dun Banner. Because we automatically immediately trigger the Grace in this event, we boost you up, we get the other Dun Banner out, and that means that we have now taken the lead, and that should be all we need to do in this round. You could make a case, well, no, we really can't. I was going to say, if you do find yourself with a bunch of cards to spare that you could use in round 1, we could have considered going with double Meditating Mage, but we just didn't have enough stuff in hand. We would have needed to have either had more tutors or more of them directly in our hand. So we'll win round 1. Okay, and we did play one more card of them in round 1, so for that reason, we may just play a couple cards here and keep this round short, or we could try to push, but don't have to. Pavetta is an interesting option for us. That is one way to get the Reaver Hunters we played in round 1 back into our deck, so we could potentially draw back into them, or just tutor them out with something like an Oneiromancy. I think 1 Pellar is enough. I think 2 Pellars is probably overkill. Meditating Mage would be another interesting option here. Alright, let's try seeing... okay. That's the other thing we would have liked to have had for a longer. Round 1 would have been an opportunity to actually get the thinning from the Blue Stripes Commando. Obviously, they cut the round short, so we couldn't do that. That meant we ran the risk of drawing into it later, and alas, we did. Perhaps more reason for us just to not to push all that hard in this round. I was hoping we might have gotten another Meditating Mage, in which case, or a tutor to get another Meditating Mage. Then we could have found a way to get a whole bunch of resilience on those guys, which would have been kind of nice. But no, I think instead, we'll keep it simple. We'll just go Pavetta. We'll get all the Reaver Hunters back into our deck so we can more easily repeat that process. I mean, technically, if they can't move Reavers, then we can still fill an entire melee row full of just Reavers from our initial 10 power copy. So we don't need multiple copies, but having more in our deck does give us a little bit of flexibility in case they shut one of them down. We can find a way to get another one out to replace it. So they'll do some thinning, and normally, I mean, we were trying to do some of that stuff in round 1, didn't get to do all of it. Normally, that's just for consistency for round 3, but, I mean, in this event, that's worth a lot of points as well, so for them to have to do that in round 2 is not a terrible thing. Would have done Blue Stripes Commando number 1, and then Pavetta on turn 2 if we did not brick the Commandos here, but we did, so we're probably not looking to play those. So, and similarly, if we had 2 Meditating Mages, we would have planned around that, but I think it's basically just going to be Pavetta and only Pavetta in this round. Unless we wanted to use something as a throwaway, but all this stuff is useful outside that second Commando. So I think we leave it at this. I mean, I guess you could say just get rid of Meditating Mage because we're not going to want it in round 3 anymore, since now the resilience is meaningless, so it's... I mean, it is still an engine of sorts. Not our strongest engine, but I guess you could make a case either way for that. Alright, they go Rune Mage. That does give them some long-term potential. They obviously already have the lead, so they didn't have to play this, but they chose to. Okay, are they going melee row here? Move something to the top of our deck. Yeah, that's a little scary, alright. Not entirely sure what they're up to there, but we'll see what we draw into. Alright, well, it was the Redanian Knight, apparently. We draw into one of our slightly weaker Reaver Hunters. That is potentially one downside of using Pavetta, I suppose. I mean, we want more Reaver Hunters, yes, but we prefer the 10 base power ones. So let's see. Let's get rid of you, certainly. So now I don't think we need you anymore. Pellar, number 2, as we said, probably overkill. We know we're not going to draw into the other Blue Stripes Commando. I think we actually may prefer to dump the Meditating Mage. I mean, it is... Yes, it's going to have Vitality, so it is a bit of an engine, but the Bonded Resilience doesn't matter at all to us. So Amphibious Assault, that's definitely nice. That's definitely nice. Okay, they're going to start with Isbell. That's suspicious. Can be very good, especially with Last Say. Ooh. Ooh. Functionally means they will have card advantage. Okay, we'd like to get rid of that. And the Reaver Hunters are good at weakening, not great at outright destroying cards. But I think we have one way we can work around that a bit. I mean, Igni certainly may long-term be able to make that happen, but we start off with Yennefer Illusionist. She'll deal a little bit of damage here. Obviously won't get the death blow, though. If Yennefer Illusionist remains unchecked, which, granted, we have 2 Pellars now, so if she gets locked, we should definitely be able to purify her and still have purification for Reaver Hunters. Combining Yennefer with Reaver Hunters may very well be able to remove Isbell on our next turn. Mata. Okay, they're drawing a lot of cards. I mean, it's not bad. We could actually make a case for playing this card now, because that is a way to give us Zeal on Reaver Hunters without requiring that we use a leader ability charge on them, at least not initially, which, especially since we used one of our leader ability charges in round 1, does mean there's a case to be made for doing this. And we get, you know, a little bit of a value on the boost as well, potentially. Otherwise, we just more quickly, we immediately remove Isbell, functionally, if we use the leader ability charge. I think we could still afford to be patient, because if we don't use this now, then we aren't going to have a great purpose for it. So let's do it. The risk here is that they play something smaller than Isbell, and then suddenly Yennefer is going to damage something else but we should be getting solid value from Yennefer on every turn, unless she gets answered here. We're gonna boost her. That is also suspicious. Okay, that brings out Nazca Brigades. That's solid thinning. Oh, they use... Wow. Okay, no, they're not waiting. Right, Isabel? I'm pretty sure. Couldn't they have waited until since... Oh, no, do we have... I don't even remember. No, we won round. We have last say. What am I saying? Never mind. Isabel's not a huge factor in that case. No worries. Okay, Strays of Spalla. I mean, we might run out of... We probably will run out of board space, honestly. It's going to be the biggest issue at this point. So let's get the Reaver Hunters out here. And we will remove Isabel, is what's going to happen here. Because this is the combination of Yennefer plus a high base power Reaver Hunters. Means a whole lot of damage coming from Yennefer when we do that. In addition to, of course, the more typical value you get from damage at the end of your turn. Vilga Forts, I'm curious who they go for here. Is it a Reaver Hunter, or is it Yennefer? It's a Reaver Hunter, okay. So that's why having things like Strays of Spalla, Oneiro, and Amphibious Assault are useful, because we may have lost one Reaver Hunter, but we do still have a whole lot remaining in our deck. Preferably this one, but since we used Pavetta in round 2, we also have these weaker ones we could use as well. So, although that was almost, in normal circumstances, would have been a bit of a counter to us, we are ready to adapt accordingly. So, just a matter of what do we prefer. I think we go and get it out immediately with... So yeah, we're going to need Oneiro. For Necromancy, it's possible. So I guess we'll go Amphibious Assault in that case. We'll get the biggest one out. We will give you Zeal. I mean, granted, that's going to get pretty big, but I would like to give you Zeal so we can immediately start doing this. And now, that means that if this gets destroyed, we can go Nero into Necromancy, or they'll Yenvo it. Okay, that's actually more of an issue. So then we can't we could Necromancy the 9-power Reaver Hunter. So that works. That probably is still our preferred course of action then. Or we just go straight into getting this one out. I'll tell you what. Let's save the Oneiro in case we need it later. We'll go Strays with Spalla. And, well, what are we going to get rid of in that case? We need to get rid of a gold. I mean, we do have nice golds. Alright, maybe we do just go straight into Oneiro for it in that case. Maybe we just go straight into this. So one lower base power, but this is a good demonstration of... This is why we have all these other methods. And at this point, even if they do destroy this Reaver Hunter, like, unfortunate, yes, but at least we have 3 on the board at that point, and they're still going to generate some value, and we won't run out of board space, which is something that we were concerned might happen later on. Morale. I mean, the problem with that is that this, right, was the most important Reaver Hunter for them to go after. But it isn't anymore. Okay, so now I think we want to get the Redanian Knight out here. We could also Purify if we really wanted to. Honestly, I'm not even sure that we do, though. Yes, they can destroy Reaver Hunters with that. With another round of poison from Morale. So getting rid of the... I mean, it's probably the best value we're going to get from the Pellar. The reason why I say we might not even want to do that is because that... We were saying we might run out of board space. And so having them get rid of one of our Reaver Hunters, not even our strongest Reaver Hunter, it's not a terrible thing. But, alright, sure, we'll do it. We'll do it nonetheless. So I was going to say the alternative is it means we get Redanian Knight out here 1 turn earlier, which means 1 more turn worth of getting boosts from that. Now they're going to poison the other one, and they might destroy this. If they have another source of poison, then they do. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, but as I said, at this point we have 4 Reaver Hunters. I think that should be enough for us to continue to generate decent value, and hopefully still line up some stuff for an Igni a little bit later on. So now, technically speaking, if we really wanted to, we could use Strays of Spalla, get rid of one of our golds, either Triss Meteor Shower or Igni, and replace it with one of our 8-power Reaver Hunters. That is an option. It's basically just a question of what do we prefer, because that does start to come at a somewhat significant cost at that point. But I think we can get by. I think we can get by with just this for the time being. Let's go for our other engine. immediately activates the Grace. It does mean it's also shutting down Yennefer Illusionist, which was a really effective combo, so you could still certainly make the case that it is worth doing. Let's see. They're playing one of the Reaver Hunters from our graveyard. We got rid of... Did we end up replaying one of them? So that's only a 7 base power Reaver Hunter. Did they have a better option than that? They did have a better option. Okay, well, I mean, that's just a misplay in that case. On their part. I mean, solid choice, yes. And you can see they certainly have built their deck with the realization that Reavers were going to be strong. They tried to counter this deck, but you see all the various ways that we have to still respond to those counters and still make things work. So they may be able to create more Reaver Hunters, but they only have 4 turns left. So they're, at best, going to be at roughly the same amount of Hunters as we are. And we already have quite a big head start, so I'm not too concerned about that. And do need a little bit of time for you. I mean, again, it's a question of, like, do we want... I mean, we could still go more Reaver Hunters. We could go more Reaver Hunters if we really wanted to. I still think these are valuable enough that we don't really want to do that, though. So let's go for you. I guess our melee row is now no longer completely going to be filled up by Reaver Hunters. We do still, even after we use this, should still have some space if we convinced ourselves that we want to do this. Ache. Interesting. Curious who they are targeting there. In that case. So that's kind of counterproductive with the Reaver Hunters that they've now stolen from us, because Ache wants to get rid of the highest unit, and our highest units are getting hit by these Reaver Hunters, so it reduces Ache's value. So, I don't know. I think we'll still do, obviously we'll do this. Don't really have much purpose for the Pellar anymore. And the reason why I keep on saying Trace's Spalla every turn, considering it is, well, I mean, the earlier we were to do the Reaver Hunters, the better. If we were to do this exchange here with the Trace's Spalla, because it's an engine. Longer it's on the board, more value it gets. But I still think these are going to be better at this point in time. And I mean, if we had waited for that, we could have actually Igni'd and gotten rid of Ache if we really wanted to. But I suppose we'll wait instead. And we're just going to use you. Because I don't really... I'm not sure. Not that that really matters. At this point, we should probably use that Vitality. Are they going to use Ache immediately, or are they going to try to wait? Like, you are the biggest. That's worth roughly the same amount of points, though, because that's also getting boosted by 1 every turn. So I'm still not really sure that's a huge factor. Although this is eventually going to get answered by the Hunters, I suppose. Or they'll remove it with Geralt's. Okay. Okay. We don't have a choice for Trace's Spalla, do we? I mean, we delayed it, obviously, because we like these cards, but that might force us into playing it last. Might actually force us into playing it last. They, in their range row, they are at 40, so I mean, we could do something else before we use Igni, but we don't really have any other alternatives yet. We are looking at a 24-point range row Igni. Again, like, technically in our previous turn might have been best because we could have stopped Ache before we actually had the chance to use that ability. Still think we'll be fine here, but this is perhaps a decent time to use the Igni. And in anticipation of Triss, I think our melee row is actually going to be better. So let's put you here. I think melee row. Boost, or range row Triss to boost our melee row is what I mean. To clarify, and then we'll finish with Trace's Spalla to the point where, you know, that deployability is not going to be a factor. Now, they could have an Igni. They seem to be focused a lot more on the statuses. Okay. That was also odd, because that was not our highest Reaver Hunter. So I don't know what to make of this. But this one doesn't have armor, this one does. I don't know. I don't know. So if we are to play Trace's Spalla, I believe we would be forced into getting rid of Triss Meteor Shower, which is why I think we have to play Triss here, even if she is our preferred finisher. And then Trace's Spalla. I mean, it's a 14-point finisher. Still not the worst thing in the world, but let's see. So I think it's still best to go range row Triss, boost melee row. I think that is preferable. Let's see, I'll just put you in between some big units just in case. Do this. Should give us a lot of value. So even if they have a Triss of their own for a finisher, we should still be able to beat them. No, it's another form of poison for removal. But as you can see, oh, also, last second leader ability. So not sure what the idea was behind that as well. I mean, it's a 7-point body, yes, but it's not as if they had any other setup for that. And that means that we have almost doubled their score, probably would double their score if we were to play our last card here, but we don't even need to, because we have already won the match. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Okay, and let's see, so we can get some thinning out of you, and you, but notably, no Reavers in hand here. We could, of course, get them with Oneiro, but that's, you know, we'd like to have perhaps one other more direct source. Necromancy, unlikely to be helpful in round 1, at least. I mean, the Purification in case a Reaver gets locked is not a terrible idea, but 2 is probably overkill. Meditating Mage, alright, I mean, we have 2 of those now for some carryover there. But this is a Reaver counter, which might not be a bad idea. There's a chance they're going to do something similar here. We could use Strays of Spalla. Tell you what, we can use Strays of Spalla to maybe... who are we going to dump, though? Because Strays of Spalla is now a tutor after the recent rework to get one of our Reavers in hand. Thing is, we need to sacrifice a gold to make that happen. Oh, we do have Cursed Scroll as well. Okay, so we'll be fine. We'll make it work either way. So, I think we might even go Siege Support first. It means we're going to lose out on the deployability, yes, but basically it's just a way for us to get Zeal on one more Reaver Hunter, without needing to use a leader ability charge, because those leader ability charges are pretty handy for making sure that the Reavers don't get shut down too quickly. 20 cavalry. Oh. Huh. Okay, I mean, that usually would mean they're going for Ragnar, but I would not have expected Pincer Maneuver to be using Ragnar. I mean, we'll see. Alright, well, then again, I guess you could make the case it is a bit of a Reaver counter, in that we will end up removing that shield and boosting you in the process. So, alright then. Alright, so we can use Curse Scroll to get a Reaver, or we could use Strays of Spalla. Technically, this does give us additional points, but it is a little bit slower. So maybe we get one Reaver like this, and we could potentially get another Reaver using the Strays if we'd like to. So let's do this to get one of those Reaver Hunters. I have a feeling they might be anticipating this. Then we'll dump maybe the Pellar, and worst comes to worst, we can use Oneiromancy to get it. I'll tell you what, we should have gotten Amphibious Assault. Would have been even better still. That should have actually been the direction we take here. So that's why we went for the Siege Support first. So we did not need to use a leader ability charge there. But as we were saying, that meant that you were going to get a boost because we were going to remove your shield. Ratified. Okay. So now that we have you set up, we can continue to create more of you. And I'm thinking we may look to rely on these Meditating Mages next, because they are engines as well. So that could certainly help to give them a little more time to gain that vitality, but also getting 2 on the board obviously means a pretty high base power resilience unit, which is not bad. Not bad. So you could even use, even after using Siege Support, a leader ability charge to just spawn in these Reavers even faster still, but deliberately basically using Siege Support in round 1 here, and then hopefully saving most of our charges to get Reavers back in a later round. And use those to more quickly create the Reavers in round 2/3. Full test. Okay, is this going to be a Commando deck or something like that, or lands as well, in all likelihood? So, let's see. We would like to get our second Meditating Mage out, so that these guys are working together. And, yeah, I do really wish we used Amphibious Assault, because getting the extra echoed copy of a tutor card would have been really helpful to make sure we can get Pavetta to bring back Reavers. So then we could have, you know, also gotten a second round of Reavers more efficiently and still relied on using Pavetta to get them all back. You know, basically domino effect. We would have had more access to reliable Reaver stuffs in later rounds, but we'll go for this first. And we could still get some thinning from things like the Commando And that way, at least increase our chances of drawing into those cards in a later round. It's stun banners what they're going for, okay. So, they are going to run out of... They should not have done this in the melee row, really, because the volunteers are clogging things. So they're actually going for something similar here. The issue with this is that although the initial dun banners are 13 points, any subsequent dun banner is not from their starting deck, is therefore just 3 points. So it's not as good as you might have thought it would be. And let's do what is basically our equivalent of the same thing here. Yeah, we could still use Triss Spalla in round 2 or round 3, and that could be a, you know, basically a replacement for not having that Amphibious Assault. So yeah, now this is going to get filled pretty quickly. They're going to use Pavetta to bring these back, and then they're going to quickly get all them out in round 2 or round 3. But again, yes, they'll be able to recycle the high base power ones, but the lower base power ones in this event, I'm just not sure that's going to be a huge factor when we're looking to do something similar with high base power Reavers, which I would argue is more significant. So let's do this. Let's do this. We actually don't have much in the way of source of boosting to get the thinning from our dun banners here in this round, which is unfortunate. Unless we were to go Oneiro into, you know, Redanian Knight, which will immediately trigger its grace. But, I mean, we are probably looking to use that Oneiro now. So, I mean, or we do get this out in anticipation of that. Let's activate these, I think. I'm not sure how much longer this round is going to go for. We do have a large lead. We now have more resilience than they have. So they'll pass. Okay. So it does mean we stranded our dun banner here. Oh, well. You know, as I said, it was going to be a little bit awkward to get the boost on that anyway. Would have had to have been next turn Oneiro into probably Redanian Knight, immediately trigger Grace, boost adjacent units, and summon that one out. But, alright. No worries. Large lead here. They did, of course, create many of those dun banners, but we've talked about how, although that is powerful, maybe not quite so powerful to be concerning. Alright, and we did play one more card than them. So, for that reason, we could make the case that we ought not to play in this round. Although, looking at the resilience here, they have 8 points. We have... Actually, that vitality will kick in. So we have 27 points. Can they score 27 points in one turn? They may not be able to, so we might want to dry pass here. And then just dare them to catch us in one card, because if they don't, then that means we're gonna have card advantage going into round 3 and double assay, which would be pretty nice. I think... I don't love Olgierd, although Triss Spalla could potentially swap Olgierd out for something else. Necromancy could be useful here. We're looking for Pavetta or a way to more efficiently get her. Okay, well, and another Triss Spalla. I think it makes sense to dry pass here, because, I mean, well, so on one hand, you can make the case for pushing and forcing them to use their Pavetta to bring back all of their dun banners, and then eventually force them to use their dun banners in this round, then they wouldn't be able to repeat that combo in round 3. They'd be pretty stuck in round 3, but I still think we can outplay them. I mean, we saw what happened in round 1 when it was basically their fully set up combo versus our fully set up combo, and ours seemed stronger. So I think we do still dry pass here. I think this is probably sufficient, and they need basically 20 points in one turn, which they, okay, are not doing immediately, although if they get another Meditating Mage, that's not a terrible way to make up for how they're going to be a card down, because they do get at least 14 points of resilience. They're going to play one more turn to get the other Meditating Mage order ability. They might. I don't know if that's worth it, though, because that means... Okay, yeah, they don't. Otherwise, we would have had serious card advantage, even if they do have extra points on the board. Okay, and we draw into our other Reaver Hunters here. So, again, technically, we could have managed this a little bit better in round 1 if we had used Amphibious Assault rather than Reaver Hunters. But, we draw into it, so we can just go for this. We technically don't need Pavetta, especially if we use Necromancy to get the other 10 power Reaver Hunter that we played in round 1. So we should be fine in that regard. Triss Meteor Shower, probably want to put her in the range row, because otherwise we're going to have less space for the Reaver Hunters. Straves of Spalla, I'm not sure this is all that necessary anymore. Royal Decree obviously gives us a lot more flexibility. And there is Amphibious Assault. Muted Generator. Huh. Okay. I mean, it's interesting because so many low provision cost cards are so strong in this event, so you could certainly spam some low provision cost cards and get a lot of value out of them. But is that good enough? I don't know. The event is new, so hard to have that perspective as to what does and does not ultimately pay off. But now I think we do what we deliberately tried to save in round 1. That is, we can use Reaver Hunters and use leader ability charges here and now. So let's go, I guess we'll go for the Reaver Hunters in our hand first. And let's at least use 1 leader ability charge. You could make a case for using all of them here if you really wanted to, but we do still have the, yeah, you know, I mean, it is more points. We'll save 1 just in case. But it is more damage more quickly, but we do also have Reaver Hunter that we can get out from our graveyard using our Necromancy, and so we could potentially give the Zeal to that if, you know, something gets locked here. Yep. Okay. That's also why we have Purification in our deck, so we could just unlock you instead. I mean, technically, getting out a 10 base power Reaver is, and creating copies of that is better than creating copies of an 8 base power Reaver. Not by much, but it is slightly better. Oh, I was also thinking we might get rid of Olgierd, because this is mostly a counter for other Reavers. And, although we thought they might have been a Reaver deck initially, that doesn't seem to be the case, and so I was wondering if either we mulligan that, or that could have been our straight to Spalla target. Oh well. Okay, so we have choices here. We do have 2 tutors, one of which I think we'd like to use for Yennefer. Okay, but we can't get both Yennefer and... Oh no, we have 3 tutors. Okay, no, this is fine then. Sure, we'll do this. We'll use Pellar. Normally a tech card, but at 14 base power, it's a... I'm not even sure you can make that case. Okay. So, but as I was saying, I mean, we're going to run out of... Right, basically, 1 full base power Reaver is going to eventually fill an entire row. So, you could make the case for, on this occasion, deliberately not even bothering to play our Reaver Hunter from our graveyard with Necromancy, because we are going to have sufficient Reavers already, but as I said, technically it does mean better base power. Otherwise, I mean, we don't have that much we'd benefit from bringing out from our graveyard beyond that, so I think we're just going to do it. And so you get the highest base power one. This is, I think, the one we'll put the last leader ability charge on. And now we are getting 2 additional Reavers per turn. And again, technically, these ones are better, so depending on how patient you are, you could deliberately make a point of just going for the higher base power versions. Like this, but it does mean we're holding back on some of the damage. I think we still just fill up the board, and, you know, if something gets destroyed, then obviously we can still create more. So that's not bad. Let's now... So you're at 15. What is going to be our Amphibious Assault target? Maybe Siege Ladder? Maybe Pavetta if something else gets destroyed? We could technically Oneiromancy Pavetta and then Amphibious Assault into the... either Meditating Mages just to get another engine, or Blue Stripes Commando for more of a point slam. You know, if we bring either of those back with Pavetta. So, some flexibility there. But I think what we'll do is I would like to use this Oneiromancy to get out... I forgot Yennefer Illusionist we need to do earlier. Darn. Okay. Never mind then. This will be Pavetta in that case. And we'll go for Commando, I guess. So yeah, what you do is you use Yennefer Illusionist before you start spawning in all these Reaver Hunters. Then, because Yennefer Illusionist's damage is based on the base power of the unit that you spawn in, the amount of damage that Yennefer Illusionist does is humongous. So that's pretty incredible. You are also an engine. I was kind of waiting until we had a couple of cards in this row so you could immediately trigger your Grace and benefit from that, but now we can do that. And we can place the other one down as well. Again, this Olgierd probably not a huge factor. They're doing something with all their drawing of cards and what have you, with numerous pincer maneuver charges, and haven't seen too much with Mutagenerator action just yet, so I am a little bit suspicious that they have, I don't know, Erland is, I guess, what we were anticipating before. So that does still remain a possibility. We are potentially going to be able to line up a pretty sweet Igni, because now they are on 40 points, so we can certainly do that. In fact, we could use a charge first. But unfortunately, they may be anticipating that. Either way, they realize there's no way that they can stop us, and so they forfeit. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And they'll go first. Alright, and we have both Reavers in our starting hand here, so that is nice. They do have double cross, but I believe that should mean that they're going to get the normal base power Reavers, not 10. So then we can use Pavetta to bring back the Reavers in the later round, so we theoretically may only need one of these for this round. Use Blue Stripes Commando for a little bit of thinning. I mean, we may not really need the consistency all that much, but obviously it is a bit of a point slam. Should immediately get the grace from you guys. You'll also be an engine. Oh, the boosting variety. I mean, our hand is pretty solid here, I feel like. Maybe getting a second Meditating Mage, we could use Amphibious Assault to get that. Maybe we'll try dumping one of you. That could give us Zeal on any of a number of things. Okay, I think this works. I mean, this event is really interesting because, of course, it takes cards that normally would not be that good and makes them potentially much better. Including that one. Definitely including that one. Alright, so, I mean, this is Nilfgaard, so they may very well have ways to lock our cards, so that is potentially one of our biggest concerns here. We do have a Pellar hanging out in our deck. We have Royal Decree, so we could get that out if absolutely necessary. Let's probably break out, and we could either go straight to Reaver, use Leader Ability Charge once to make sure we at least get a second one on the board, or we could deliberately play you first as a way to, on our next turn, get the Zeal on you without needing to use Leader Ability Charge. Maybe we do this to ease into it slightly. It is technically slightly slower, but perhaps a little bit safer. Alright, they're going Sheilard, which is going to hit, what, you? Okay, it's a little bit unfortunate. Could just not opt to use you, but I mean, obviously we can still use that order ability to get the other one out later, so that might still be worth doing. Let's get you out. And now that means we can do this to get an extra Reaver out here without needing to use Leader Ability Charge, or we could use Leader Ability Charge on you to get a third Reaver. Maybe we'll do that. Just a little more efficient when it comes to preserving our Leader Ability Charges, and because these Reavers have higher base power than usual, it means they are obviously much stronger than usual, and also can create many more copies of themselves. Okay, Nivellen, though, is a direct counter, so they anticipated the Reaver meta. Let's see, with Amphibious Assault, we should have, yeah, the Siege Ladders here specifically to counteract stuff getting moved. But, okay. It's unfortunate nonetheless, though. They moved all three. Okay, so let's go. We'll do the Royal Decree, because I think it is pretty important that we make this happen now. So let's go Siege Ladder. We'll make sure that we have the crew active here, and it's going to have to be this one that we move down, because that's the only one that still has an order ability active. So we really should do... actually... Oh, is this still going to count as crew after we move you? I honestly don't remember. Yes, it does. Okay, good. Okay, so still dealing some damage there. You see they have a Sunset Wanderers for what it's worth. Red Haze is not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. They do have Matic as well. Okay. This is, no slouch we are playing against here. I think it's safe to say we do have our second Reavers, our Reaver Hunters, already in our hand. So we could play that, especially because we have Pavetta, so we can get our Reavers, our high-value Reavers, from our graveyard back into our deck and then tutor them out using things like Amphibious Assault. So for that reason, we don't need to be quite as protective of this specific Reaver. So that is a little bit tempting. I am a little bit concerned about, we'd be at 20 points. We should still be out of Igni range, just noticing how they'd be exactly the same number. Otherwise, we would like to have gotten a Redanian Knight down here a little bit earlier to get some engines working there. So I think we can still do this. I think we can still afford to do this. And even if they have another Red Haze, the armor should mean that these guys will survive unless we use a Leader Ability Charge again, which I don't really think is necessary. I mean, technically this guy was still going to deal damage because we did have the crew. Just only one in the melee row. It's only one damage per turn. Okay, Strays. No longer is movement, mind you, but I think it is going to be a really solid card in this event. We do have it in our deck. Okay, they are using Leader Ability here pretty aggressively, and that's not a great option for them. And there's our confirmation. Yes, when they use their Leader Ability, because of that, it's not from their starting deck. They're getting a 4 base power, not a 13 base power, and perhaps that is why They will forfeit here. They just could not stop the Reavers. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And we'll go first. Okay, so we do have one of our Reaver Hunters in hand. That might be all we need for this round, depending on if they do some things to counter us. We can move that back into the melee row in case they try to bump it into the range row. So that's one potential workaround we have. If they try to lock it, we have Pellar, so that's good. Yennefer does work well for making the Reavers even more effective. We might try to save her for round 3, though. We can potentially get some thinning with these two, especially when combined with Redanian Knight. And then I think we can use Cursed Scroll to get Amphibious Assault, which we'll use to try to get the second Meditating Mage if we have that opportunity. Not entirely sure what we'll swap out to make room for that. We could just go Royal Decree for it, I suppose, as well. Oh no, we do have Amphibious Assault. Oneiromancy is what we don't have right now. Okay, so we could deliberately tutor out first, wherever it is, a siege support so we can give Zeal to one of our Reaver Hunters, or we could just go leader ability. I think on this occasion, since we don't have one of those siege supports in hand, we'll just go straight into the Reaver Hunters and use an order ability to make sure we get at least this guy out there. Worst comes to worst, I mean, we do have some potential ways to solve if they do get answered, depending on how they opt to answer. Melee row, Cave Troll. Does that mean Keltalis? If so, that could actually be a bit of an issue. Huh. Wait, Keltalis? What is the provision cost of Keltalis? Is it 13? It's 13, right? Which means Keltalis should be a 10 in this event. I'm wondering because Yennefer Illusionist could deal a big chunk of damage, but not quite enough to get rid of Kelly. So that does worry me a bit. That does actually worry me a bit. Yes, we could use Pellar to purify the Cave Troll and access Keltalis that way, but I'm still not sure even with that we would have a great answer to Kelly. So that does concern me. I'm going to... and for that reason, I'm not sure we have an answer. For that reason, I'm just going to hope and pray that that is not going to be Keltalis they're about to play, but it probably means that it is going to be Keltalis they're about to... It's Quacks into Keltalis. No Bloody Mistress. Okay, it does hurt that they bricked our Triss Meteor Shower. Also hurts that she's also lower base power. In addition to not getting her deployability, it does clog our melee row as well, which is unfortunate. Let's get our Dun Banner out. Technically, I guess I should have gone Dun Banner first, because I want to have that down before we play Redanian Knight. Obviously, this is an engine. The earlier we get it out, the better. But I want to make sure we have units next to the Redanian Knight so that when it triggers that grace, we actually benefit from it. And that is the way we are going to get the other Dun Banner out from our deck. So let's do this. And this. And this. And I think you're starting to see why I was a little bit concerned about them potentially breaking out a Keltalis. I mean, for what it's worth, yes, Yennefer Illusionist could very much get rid of the Gurnakora's fruits when combined with the Reaver Hunters. So that is, yes, a way to shut down Gurnakora if we think she's going to truly be an issue. If it's just Gurnakora, then I don't think it will be a problem, though. As you can see, they forfeit. So there's a look at a Northern Realms Reavers deck for the new Even Fight seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.